At UFC 174, the road to the welterweight title gets a little clearer, with two top contenders squaring off in Vancouver. Welcome into MMA Live Extra. I'm Phil Murphy. In Saturday's co-main event, Tyron Woodley takes on Rory MacDonald. And for more on the fight, let's welcome in ESPN MMA writer Brett Okamoto. Brett, at first, we thought this would establish a #1 contender, but with Robbie Lawler fighting Matt Brown for that right in July, what does this fight mean now?
Yeah, you know, this fight has lost a little bit of its luster just because of the fact that the UFC has announced that the Matt Brown, Robbie Lawler, that fight was going to establish a #1 contender. So I know that for sure Tyron Woodley is a little bit disappointed in it. He thought that if he got past MacDonald, he was going to be next in line to fight Johnny Hendricks. But I think if you're MacDonald or if you're Woodley, you still come into this fight thinking anything can happen. You know, a title shot is not necessarily official until the fight goes down. So even if you are supposedly going to still be in line waiting for a title shot after this weekend, you can't think like that. You got to go in thinking, I have to win this fight. If I do, you know, who knows? Maybe stars will align and I'll still get that shot next.
Yeah, we saw that happen with TJ Dillashaw, and look, now he's the bantamweight champion at 135. Brett, how important, though, are style points for the winner of this fight to maintain his status as a top contender?
Style points are always important in the UFC. It's far better to get a first-round knockout than it is to get a 3-round decision, which leaves the crowd booing and Dana White, you know, making comments on Twitter that he didn't like the fight. You always want to get that finish. But, you know, these are two of the best welterweights in the entire division. A finish is not necessarily going to happen even if these guys go out there looking for it. So I think if you're Woodley, if you're MacDonald, you want to get the W first. The finish, you'll take it if it comes, but you want to get that W.
We know Woodley has the potential for an early finish. He's looked awesome against Josh Koscheck and Carlos Condit in his last 2 fights. What will he need to do Saturday to win?
Utilize that speed, man. For Woodley, it's about speed. I know everybody talks about the power. The shots that he landed to put out Josh Koscheck were really, really terrifying shots. But what sets them up is his speed, his explosiveness, and he has that most in the first round. I'd like to see him go out there and take control of this fight. The fight is in Vancouver, which is MacDonald's sort of his backyard. That's where he grew up, so he'll have the crowd on his side. Sometimes that can influence the judges. If you're Woodley, you don't want to let it get to that point. Go ahead and take control of this fight in the first round and do that with that big right hand that he's got. Put one on Rory's chin.
Speaking of MacDonald, he's coming off a unanimous decision win over Damian Maia in February, but in his last few fights, he hasn't exactly looked as strong as in earlier performances, and he did get some of that Twitter criticism you mentioned earlier, Brett. What will Aries need to do to get his hand raised?
You know, it's not probably the answer that Dana White would want to hear, but he wants to keep this fight a little boring, I think. Keep it on the outside. Don't let Woodley land that right hand. Woodley will be dealing with a bigger opponent. MacDonald has a size advantage in this fight. He knows how to use it. He's a very technical striker who will kickbox on the outside, wrestle Woodley a little bit if he needs to, but you don't want to get into a firefight with Tyron Woodley. We talked about his power. And that speed, that hand speed that he's got in exchanges. So for MacDonald, you do not want to hang out in the pocket with this guy. And MacDonald knows that. He's a really intelligent fighter. He usually comes in with very smart game plans. You know, I'm expecting him to look to score points in this one. Not to say that he won't take the finish if it's there, but he's going to do better if he limits the exchanges in this fight.
Brett, it's prediction time. Who do you have winning this one?
It's a tough fight to predict. It's two really good fighters who are both on some pretty impressive streaks. I know that MacDonald does not quite have the momentum that Woodley has, but he's been evolving in his last few fights. I like MacDonald to keep improving, keep evolving, and beat Woodley in a 3-round decision in this one. But I could see it all changing with one Woodley right hand.
For post-fight highlights and Brett's analysis of UFC 174, keep it locked to the MMA page here on ESPN.com. For Brett Okamoto, I'm Phil Murphy. Thanks for watching MMA Live Extra.